Welcome to Content Decoded, the maiden episode. Here's a truth most AI founders ignore. The companies winning Fortune 500 deals aren't the ones with the best models. They're the ones solving what enterprises actually care about: trust. Anthropic figured this out early. While OpenAI talked about moving fast, Anthropic went narrow and deep. They positioned not as the best AI company, but as the only AI company that understands enterprise safety. And it worked. They're closing larger deals than companies with bigger marketing budgets. Today, we're breaking down exactly how Anthropic built trust-first authority through strategic content positioning.
Welcome to the deep dive. If you are an AI founder, particularly in that B2B space, you're dealing with maybe one of the highest stakes environments we've ever seen.
Absolutely. Every enterprise CIO, every compliance officer, they're terrified. Compliance failures, liability, a model going rogue.
Exactly. So what Anthropic did, it was just so counterintuitive, especially for Silicon Valley. They didn't lead with speed. They didn't say we're the fastest.
No.
They positioned safety and risk mitigation. That was the primary feature.
It's the ultimate contrarian move, really. Most Series A companies, they see governance as like friction, right? Something you bolt on later once you've scaled up.
Yeah, fix it later.
Anthropic flipped that completely. Their entire go-to-market was built around governance being the product. It started way back, December 2022, with constitutional AI.
And CAI.
And CAI is really the core idea here. It shifts the whole conversation, doesn't it? From these sort of abstract ethical debates to something tangible, something you can actually audit.
For anyone not familiar, CAI basically uses principles written by humans. Simple things like be helpful, honest, and harmless to guide how the AI behaves.
It's about radical transparency. You're giving the AI this public set of moral guidelines. It's written down, plain text.
Think of it less like complex code and more like a constitution, a governing document for the AI.
Exactly. The rules aren't just statistical patterns, they're explicit boundaries, moral lines in the sand.
So our mission today is really to unpack how Anthropic took that academic rigor and engineered this really sophisticated content system around it.
And how that system converted directly into enterprise authority. At ThoughtCred, we've looked at, over 24 AI companies now?
Yeah, quite a few.
And Anthropic's execution here really stands out. It's probably the clearest blueprint we've seen for building that kind of enterprise moat using trust.
Okay, let's unpack that positioning yet.
Yep.
The standard playbook, especially in tech, is move fast and break things.
Right. The mantra.
Worked fine for consumer apps, maybe. But why did that approach stumble so hard when it hit the big, regulated enterprise markets?
Well, because those enterprises think finance, healthcare, defense, refense, they are fundamentally risk-averse, deeply.
They have to be.
They're not buying pure, raw innovation. They're buying risk reduction. Their biggest nightmare isn't missing the next big trend.
No, it's the headline risk, the liability.
Exactly. The financial fallout, the reputational damage from an unpredictable AI doing something completely unaligned. Anthropic got that. They knew they had to tackle compliance and liability fears first, head on, before they could even talk tech specs.
So their safety message, it became this framework, something the CIO or the head of compliance could actually take to the board.
Yeah, they could walk in and say, look, we're going with the company that built the guardrails first. It's defensible.
That makes sense.
It totally aligns with what we call positioning as a moat. Anthropic didn't just talk about safety. They formalized it, made it operational. Look at their responsible scaling policy, the RSP.
Right, RSP.
This thing defines clear AI safety levels, ASL1, ASL2, up to ASL4 and beyond. And it sets measurable capability thresholds for each level.
Okay, measurable is the key word there. What does it actually mean for, say, a compliance officer at a huge bank? Is ASL1 like internal testing only and ASL2 is okay for limited customer stuff?
Precisely. It gives them that structured, auditable framework they desperately need for governance. If a model hits a certain capability, maybe it gets really good at something risky, and that bumps the risk profile from, say, ASL2, which is fine for internal use, to ASL3, where there might be broader societal risks. Anthropic publicly commits to pausing deployment. They stop until new safety measures, new mitigations are validated and put in place.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just marketing fluff.
No way. It's a technical specification for managing risk. It gives the client a lever, a way to actually audit what's happening inside that black box. So the methodology itself, the CAI, the RSP that became the core sales collateral.
That is fascinating. The safety procedure is the selling point.
Yeah.
Okay, so once they established that trust framework, they needed the actual content, the documents to arm the sales team, right? For every level in the client organization.
Exactly. Which leads us straight into their content system, which was really cleverly segmented. This is what we call replicable tactic 2, matching the content format to the specific buyer role. Who were they trying to reach?
Good question.
They basically had 3 distinct tiers of content, each aimed precisely. First, you've got the academic and policy tier.
Okay, the heavy stuff.
Yeah, this was like 60-plus research papers, ArcFiv publications, things like the original constitutional AI paper itself. Now, this obviously targets researchers. But the critical audience here, it's the CIOs, the CTOs.
Ones who need that deep validation.
Right. They need the scientific backing before they sign off on a multi-million-dollar deal. Procurement teams, compliance teams, they treat peer-reviewed papers and detailed white papers as proof, not just marketing spin.
That makes sense. You need the footnotes, the methodology, if you're the CTO making the final call. Okay, so that's tier 1. What about the engineers actually using the models?
That's the practitioner tier. This was primarily their engineering blog. Lots of focused technical deep dives, things like effective context engineering for AI agents, or even post-mortems when they had issues.
Oh, interesting. They share their mistakes.
Yeah, transparently. This builds huge confidence with the dev teams on the client side. It shows them how to operate the model effectively within those safety guardrails. It proves the model is both safe and actually useful for their tasks.
Okay, academic policy for the CIO, practitioner for the engineers. What about the people holding the purse strings, the ones who need to justify the cost?
That's the business tier. This was all about short, punchy customer success stories.
The case studies.
Exactly. Deliberately light on the technical jargon, but heavy on the ROI metrics. Focused hard on cost savings, productivity gains, increased output. These were laser targeted to match the search intent of C-suite execs, finance leaders.
So that's the final proof point they needed. Safe doesn't mean slow or useless. Safe actually means measurable business value.
Precisely. Safe enables scale.
But, none of that amazing layered content really lands unless the people at the top, the founders, are seen as completely credible.
Absolutely crucial.
Let's talk about Dario Amodei, the CEO. This feels like replicable tactic 1, using that founder credibility as direct sales enablement. His background isn't just impressive, it's almost perfectly suited for this mission, isn't it?
Terrifyingly appropriate is maybe the phrase. Look, He's not some business school grad who decided AI was hot. He's a researcher, first and foremost.
Right, PhD in biophysics.
Former VP of research at OpenAI, deeply involved in GPT-2, GPT-3. The guy has over 30,000 research citations. That kind of pedigree just bypasses the whole initial credibility hurdle. It's immediate respect.
So when he talks about AI risk, especially catastrophic risk,
he's speaking as someone who literally helped build the foundations of this technology. People listen.
And his communication style reinforces that. It's all substance, isn't it? Not quick sound bites. You think about that incredibly long essay, Machines of Loving Grace.
Yeah, 28 pages.
Or those marathon podcast interviews, 5 hours plus. He's clearly selling depth and thoughtful consideration, not just hype.
And he's selling authenticity, too. You mentioned the essay. He connects the mission back to something deeply personal. His father's death from an illness that's now curable thanks to scientific progress.
Oh, right, I remember that.
That frames this whole push for advanced, safe AI, not just as a business opportunity, but as something fundamentally about accelerating life-saving progress. That kind of narrative, that purpose, it resonates incredibly well with big institutional buyers who are looking for long-term stable partners.
And it feels like a balanced credibility, too, with Daniela Amodei as president providing that essential policy and ethics anchor.
Totally. Daniela, also from OpenAI with a safety and policy background, she really grounds the company culture, the humanitarian perspective. She was a champion for developing CAI.
So you have this diverse leadership, Dario's deep technical expertise, Daniela's policy focus, and cultural leadership.
It sends a powerful signal. It reinforces their commitment to long-term impact, to getting this right, which is exactly what risk-averse institutions want to see.
Okay, this brings us right back to constitutional AI itself. It's clearly more than just a research paper. It's like the core promise the contract Anthropic offers to the enterprise.
That's a great way to put it. It directly tackles those three huge enterprise pain points: safety, compliance, and regulatory risk, all in one framework.
So how did they amplify that? How did they use external validation to really boost CIO confidence?
They were smart about using academic rigor as a sales tool. This links to replicable tactic 4, partnering with academia for CIO validation. A brilliant example was the Collective Constitutional AI project back in October 2023.
Right, where they got the public involved.
Yeah, they invited around 1,000 ordinary Americans to publicly participate in drafting a constitution for the AI, like a crowdsourced set of ethical guidelines.
So they essentially democratized the alignment process itself. That's pretty radical.
And crucially, they published the data. The models trained on that public constitution showed measurably lower bias scores across 9 different social dimensions compared to baseline models.
Ah, so they could point to hard numbers.
Exactly. They could demonstrate measurable, democratically derived safety improvements. That kind of evidence is absolute gold when you're trying to get something through an internal compliance review at a big company.
You know, what's also fascinating is how their actual corporate governance structure became a form of thought leadership itself. Can you tell us about the long-term benefit trust? That sounds unusual.
Oh, the LTBT is radical. It's a really unique governance experiment. Basically, it allows 5 trustees, and here's the key part. They are financially disinterested.
Meaning they don't personally profit from the company's stock value.
Correct. These are people with deep backgrounds in things like national security, public policy, not VCs looking for a quick exit. And these trustees have the power to phase in majority control of Anthropic's board by 2027.
Wow. Okay, why does a potential enterprise buyer care about that internal structure?
Because it sends an incredibly strong, legally binding signal. It says Anthropic's ultimate long-term commitment is genuinely to safety and beneficial outcomes for humanity, not just maximizing short-term shareholder profit.
It's like an insurance policy against the company suddenly changing direction later.
Exactly. It provides assurance that even if market pressures change or leadership changes down the line, that fundamental safety commitment is locked in place structurally. That level of integrity, that long-term view, is massively important when you're asking a major bank or hospital system to bet its future, essentially, on your AI technology.
And having that kind of trust bedrock, that structural assurance, it probably allowed them to sidestep some of the usual go-to-market grind, right? They seem to use policy engagement, government interaction, almost as a distribution channel.
Yeah, they played the policy stage brilliantly. It proved that distribution isn't just about reach, it's about credibility amplification. Think about Dario's congressional testimony in July 2023.
I remember seeing clips of that.
That wasn't just showing up because they were subpoenaed. It was a strategic move. He didn't downplay the risks. He leaned into them. He warned about medium-term risks like potential bioweapons development using AI.
And he argued for regulation.
Right. By positioning Anthropic as the company actively seeking responsible guardrails, the company that understood the dangers best, they earned a seat at the highest tables. It framed them as the responsible adults in the room.
And that wasn't just in the U.S., right? He was prominent at the UK AI Safety Summit, too.
Exactly. They established themselves globally as this proactive, government-friendly industry partner, not the typical disruptive tech company that regulators feel they have to chase down and contain.
It's a very different posture.
And they even extended that collaborative safety posture to their direct competitors. That joint safety evaluation they did with OpenAI in August 2025, that was unprecedented.
2 major rivals working together on safety protocols.
Yeah. Despite being locked in fierce commercial competition, it demonstrated this unified front on alignment research and safety standards. That sent a powerful signal to the entire market. Okay, we compete hard on product, but we are actually aligned on the fundamental safety challenges. That adds credibility to both sides' commitments.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit paradoxical. If their whole brand is built on trust and safety, why do they spend so much time and effort publishing research about how dangerous their own models could be? Or highlighting flaws?
Right. It feels counterintuitive.
Is there a cynical read here? Like, are they just getting ahead of the narrative, controlling the story around their own potential failures?
That's the inherent tension, isn't it? But I think they genuinely treat risk disclosure as a feature, as a credibility booster. It shapes that procurement perception very positively. They become the company that doesn't try to sugarcoat the dangers.
So when they publish something like that, alignment faking in large language models paper.
Yeah, research showing how models could potentially deceive us about their true alignment.
Or that viral story about snitching Claude, the model that tried to report user activity it deemed immoral based on its constitution.
Right. Any other company might try to bury that kind of PR headache, quickly patch it, hope nobody noticed.
Anthropic seemed to lean into it.
They amplified it. By being transparent about those alignment challenges, those quirks, publishing postmortems when things go wrong, they build much stronger long-term trust than companies that try to hide everything. They're essentially saying, look, we understand the dangers, arguably better than anyone, and we're working transparently in the open to solve them.
That level of radical honesty must be incredibly valuable if you're the CIO who has to sign off on deploying this potentially risky technology across your entire organization.
Immensely valuable. It manages expectations and invites scrutiny, which paradoxically builds more confidence than secrecy ever could.
And okay, that transparency, that deep thought leadership, ultimately needs to translate into deals, into revenue. Let's talk about that final conversion step. Turning all this dense academic trust-building content into actual sales enablement.
This is where it all comes together. And it relates to replicable tactic 3, timing those research announcements and publications to coincide with targeted enterprise briefings and sales pushes.
Coordinating the releases.
Exactly. But the real weapon for closing deals, especially getting past the CFO, were those customer case studies we talked about earlier.
The business tier content.
Yep. They weren't just fluffy testimonials saying we like Claude. They were specifically designed for the finance audience. Super light on jargon, laser focused on metric-driven proof points. That Copy.ai case study is the absolute perfect blueprint.
Refresh my memory. What were the key numbers in that one?
It showed Copy.ai slashed their costs down to less than 20% of what they were spending before on AI, while simultaneously getting a 4x increase in content output. Huge numbers.
Okay, impressive ROI. But how did they tie that back to safety?
That was the crucial link. The message to the CFO wasn't just 4x output. It was, you achieved this massive business acceleration safely. They could demonstrate, based on the CAI principles, that the model was constitutionally incapable of leaking sensitive customer data, PII, or generating harmful toxic outputs.
So the safety wasn't a break on performance, it was the enabler of that high-scale usage, especially in potentially sensitive marketing contests.
Precisely. That's what unlocked the confidence to deploy it so aggressively and realize those huge gains. The safety enabled the ROI.
So if you imagine the sales cycle,
Yeah.
security teams, the compliance officers, they've likely already seen Dario Amede's research papers, they've read the RSP, they've maybe even looked at the LTBT structure.
Right. They've already consumed and hopefully validated the company's deep commitment to risk management before the main sales pitch even starts.
That must dramatically shorten the procurement cycle. It overcomes huge hurdles up front.
That's the ultimate payoff of investing so heavily in genuine thought leadership and transparency. It doesn't just generate awareness or leads, it actively pre-clears the biggest roadblocks in a complex enterprise sales process, particularly around risk and compliance. This is exactly the kind of integrated, metric-driven system that ThoughtCred helps AI founders architect and build for their own go-to-market. It's about connecting that deep thinking directly to revenue.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the core insight here for you, the founder or the GTM leader listening to this right now?
I think the main takeaway is that Anthropic's success in the enterprise wasn't accidental. It came from this incredibly well-coordinated system.
A system where governance and research transparency, think CAI, the RSP, even the LTBT, were powerfully leveraged by a very specific founder-led narrative.
Yeah, Dario's technical depth, Danielle's policy focus.
And all of that was used to create targeted, sales-ready content, like those case studies, that could directly justify the ROI to the business buyers.
They fundamentally repositioned safety. It wasn't just a nice-to-have feature. They established it as a mandatory prerequisite for any serious enterprise adoption of powerful AI.
So the biggest win in their content strategy wasn't just getting attention or visibility.
No, it was architecting deep institutional trust. And they did that by consistently positioning themselves as the most transparent, the most cautious, and the most scientifically rigorous option out there.
A powerful lesson. Now, if you are an AI founder who's trying to build this kind of trust architecture, Remember, this is precisely what ThoughtCred helps AI companies architect, often as little as 30 days. Definitely check out Content Decoded every Monday and Thursday for more deep dives and playbooks like this one.
And join us next time, because we're going to flip the script. We'll deep dive into the counter strategy, how OpenAI used incredible speed, massive scale, and that ubiquitous consumer presence to capture enterprise mindshare. A very different path, but arguably just as powerful in building enterprise authority.
That's the Anthropic playbook. Here's what matters. Enterprises buy risk reduction, not innovation. Your action item, identify what your enterprise buyers fear most. Lock in, compliance, implementation. Own that fear completely. Build your entire content strategy around proving you've solved it better than anyone else. Your competitors chase hype. You chase peace of mind. This is Content Decoded, where we reverse engineer how AI companies build enterprise authority. Next episode, OpenAI's pivot from viral consumer product to enterprise infrastructure standard. Check us out at thoughtcred.com.